Welcome, everyone, to this call tonight. I am so excited. We are so blessed to have Alan Ogden as a member of our Scientific Advisory Board, and he is so generous with his time. He is not only a pharmacist, he has studied passionately amino acids and peptides and glutathione. He's participated in some of the clinical studies, and he is a wealth of information. Alan, I am so excited to learn from you everything that we can tonight about PTSD.
Well, thank you, Diana, for hosting the call. And I just want to make sure you can hear me and there's very little background noise. I'm actually, in a kind of a noisy area, but I think you should be okay. Just let me know, though, for sure.
Okay, yeah, I hear you loud and clear and no background noise.
Oh, that's perfect. Wow, that is excellent. Well, I really wanted to put this topic into a call of its own because it's in the news everywhere, Canada, United States, around the world. And it wasn't in the news, unfortunately, for many, many years, even though it has existed for many years as a condition. Not much was known about it, not much was studied about PTSD until just recently, when the United States military took the very first steps, and Canadian military as well, began to notice the amount of veterans that were reportedly suffering from this condition. And that then stimulated discussions and opened up the door. So first of all, I want to give people a little clearer definition of PTSD and what the disease is, where it can come from, and just a little bit more information so that people would understand it a little better. We do associate it often with members of the military, and ultimately that's because they are high profile. There's many of them, and really they are the ones who have brought it to the forefront. However, PTSD is suffered by many, many people, including children. Children can suffer from PTSD because PTSD is a very sudden, traumatic change in your circumstances where the person involved feels one of three things or all of these three things. Number one, they feel completely out of control. Number two, they feel that their life is threatened. Or number three, PTSD can result from sexual abuse as well. And that's a topic that is not very often talked about with PTSD. But when you think about those who are suffering from sexual abuse, particularly children, they would feel very out of control, and they would also feel very threatened. So it can be a car accident. It can be a natural disaster that can trigger PTSD. And of course, it can come from the heightened amount of alertness required by someone who's in the middle of battle. So what is actually happening in that person's mind? So you think of people in the military, they're trained. They're trained, they go through extensive training to hopefully prepare themselves for life-threatening, life-altering situations. First responders, you think about first responders, they're trained to overcome every emotion in their body that would say run in the opposite direction, which is what everyone else is doing, while they're running directly into the source of whatever it is that's scaring other people. So first responders are another group of people that often suffer from PTSD. And that comes from this overriding, constant and continual overriding what their natural instinct would be or their natural emotion would be in a given situation. So somebody who's been on the fire department, someone who's been a paramedic, someone who's a police officer for many years. And the unfortunate part about PTSD is it can come many years after the incident is over. It's not something that is immediate necessarily. It can appear at any time. And it has the ability to start with a subtle appearance. So some people are very, the appearance of PTSD is very dramatic. It's the reliving of the event, the constant reliving, constant over and over, can't get their mind off of whatever event that has gone on, where they felt out of control, felt like their life has been threatened, and that is just a continual theme that plays over and over again in their mind. So those are people that we immediately know that they have PTSD, and they're going to require treatment. They're going to require some special considerations. But for other people who have gone through traumatic events, first responders, children, and others, the symptoms can be much more subtle and come upon them over a period of time. And so those symptoms are increases in anxiety, or panic attack that they've never had in their life. And they may not relate those particular, that particular occurrence, panic attack or an anxiety attack, they may not relate that to the incident because it's so far in the past. So they feel that they're good emotionally, they've recovered from that, and all of a sudden they are stricken with panic attacks. And really there would be nothing in their life at that given moment that would lead us to that conclusion. So this disconnection, and that's why it took so long, and really it did take the military to bring this to the forefront of everybody's mind, is because it had the ability to evolve and to appear over time. So panic attack is one, sleeplessness is another, lack of the inability to sleep, nightmares, sudden appearance of nightmares, and usually very vivid nightmares. And once again, if you had an event when you were a child, for instance, when I was 3 years old, my parents had gone on a holiday with my two older brothers, and my next oldest brother and myself were at home. We were with a babysitter whom we trusted. We knew her very well. And while they were gone on the holiday, the whole development, the whole commercial development behind our home where we lived exploded in the night. There was a dry cleaning plant in that facility, and it literally took the whole block of buildings out around our home. So our home was left, the neighbor's home on each side of us was left, and the rest of the block was literally obliterated overnight. And so as I was 3 years old, I remember being suddenly awakened, looking out the window. All I saw was a big wall of fire, and I remember just diving under the bed. I didn't know what else to do. Diving under the bed, so I was taken to the doctor and so on as a child. And then my father was killed when I was 5. And I played out car accidents for many years after that as a kid. I would get toy cars and I would play out a car accident. I didn't understand what that was and why I could take my father away. And the therapist kept saying, well, that's a natural thing for the child to do. They're trying to understand. They're trying to make this. So essentially the same thing is happening in an adult later on in life. All of a sudden their mind starts to play out these events again. And it's very difficult for them to change the mind because the chemical composition of their mind changes at that time. So what ultimately is going on in the mind is we're blocking the calming, the serotonin, the GABA, the hormones that will allow us to relax. Our pineal gland doesn't work like it did before. It doesn't produce melatonin, so our sleep, we can't get into our sleep cycle because it's being overridden by chemicals that are going on, most notably an overproduction of nitrous oxide. And so for those of you who have listened on some of the calls before, you might remember that in our energy product, we put L-arginine in our energy to help our body produce nitric oxide because generally speaking, as we get older, we produce less and less nitric oxide, and it's necessary for the assimilation and utilization of proteins. It's very valuable for our cardiovascular system, and it's really part of staying healthy long term. But in these individuals, all of a sudden, just in their brain, I'm talking, just in their brain, they start overproducing nitric oxide. And that nitric oxide becomes very interruptive in the creation of the other hormones. It literally overrides the natural calming mechanism of the brain and the ability to regain your focus. And so this is ultimately one of the things that we look at, and how do we treat that? How do we get the brain chemistry to balance out again? And my experience in the place where I had one of my drugstores. There's a very, very large mental institution there, so a lot of work was done with drugs, and our experience with drugs is that they're really very I'm just going to say they're mostly inadequate for this condition. There is not very many drugs that provide the necessary relief for PTSD because of this tremendous amount of overriding due to nitric oxide production in our brain. So things just can't act like they ordinarily would. It creates an environment that is completely different than another environment. So with that comes a lot of inflammation. And inflammation in our brain, inflammation starts to interrupt the brain's ability to create new synapses. And, we should be creating like 100 million new synapses in our brain every day. When you and I have a thought, when we literally have just one, so sometimes we think thoughts over and over again, and we think, well, that wouldn't do anything. But every time we have a thought, we literally create new synapses in our brain. So there's this constant movement, this constant growth and regression in our brain of connective tissue and synapses and areas where our brain is transferring chemicals. And so when I first started working in this area and working with some of the people, which was early on, it was a number of years ago that I had the opportunity to work with just a handful of veterans who were, really had come to the conclusion that the drugs weren't going to help them very much, and they were willing to try some other things. And once again, at that time, we didn't know much about glutathione therapy at all. So we were using very, very high antioxidant therapy, high doses of vitamin B. And we were seeing some results. And the reason we would see some results is because the vitamin B vitamins play a calming role in your brain. So we were literally these people were kindly volunteering out of desperation. I really have to say, out of desperation, they were volunteering to go through whatever sort of experimental process we could put them through. So we did find some relief. Then we found some other high anti-ORAC value products. So ORAC is the oxidant reducing and absorbing capacity of anything. The amount of oxidative stress it can absorb, and so we started using a particular product called Mangozan, and Mangozan is still on the market today. It's a very good product, a very high ORAC product, and once again we would experience some progress, some progress with that. It also has a product, so we were getting some results. And that's very encouraging when you start to get results with something that you're trying for people. That's very encouraging to them. And but really, when we started to use glutathione, and we were using precursor amino acids, and we experimented with N-acetylcysteine as well, because N-acetylcysteine actually crosses the blood-brain barrier. It's predictable. It's very quick, and we did some work with that. We started to see some dramatic changes in people's cognition and in not only their cognition, but their behavioral patterns would begin to change. And so so that's what encouraged me to really start using a lot of glutathione with people with PTSD. So it wasn't the whole answer. I want you to know that it wasn't the whole answer. It's part of the answer for sure. So glutathione is the answer. And then just recently, we started using the collagen protein and the glutathione together. And that has been, I'm going to say it's been very, very good. The collagen protein and the glutathione together has been this sort of magic combination. So the amino acids, the glycine, which is used in many, many of the processes for producing brain chemicals, so the addition of the glycine along with the glutathione. So what seems to be happening is the glutathione is helping to reduce the inflammation. And when you reduce the inflammation, of course, then you can start a healing process. The glycine, once again, is part of, it's used by almost every one of our hormones or used as the basis for building up pretty much every one of our hormones and brain chemicals. And so this becomes very good. That along with the lysine, the proline, the other amino acids that are in collagen protein that all seem to contribute to this, to help rebuilding some of these chemicals that are being overridden. Also with the glutathione, you start to see a reduction in the amount of nitrous oxide that's being produced by the brain, or at least the effect. It might not be, not really sure yet if it's reducing the amount of nitric oxide being produced or if it's just reducing the effect of that. That's something that we still don't know. However, from a results point of view, which is, I think is, what is of interest to pretty much everybody that's on this call, from a results point of view, the combination of glutathione with collagen protein, and then we also use very good omega fatty acids. So very good omegas, you can use, a flax oil, a 369 oil. The oils, for some reason, seem to be better than the capsules, but the oils, they also started to contribute. So as a general sort of look at what DSI offers, we now have the VARA, and the VARA simply easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. It provides some antioxidants. It provides the glutathione to reduce the inflammation. Glutathione also allows for protein methylation, and so your proteins will replicate better. And one of the reasons why we have nitric oxide being produced is incorrect protein will cause the production of nitric oxide. So we're now attacking when we use glutathione and collagen, and then combine it with essential fatty acids, it's supplying some essential nutrients that the brain can now use to help rebuild. And with that rebuilding process, and with the addition of helpful hormones, and with the addition of the reduction of inflammation, then you get changes in cognition, you get changes in behavior. So I don't want to say that people are not going to need therapy or they're not going to need other treatments, but just from our experience to this point, this is the kind of things that we are seeing, we are experiencing, and people are coming back to us and saying, since I started taking the combination of the glutathione product, the collagen product, along with the essential fatty acid product, that has made a difference. I can feel the difference. I'm feeling better. I'm feeling calmer. The anxiety has gone down. The feeling of tension, the on edge, that's reduced. And so, this is a process. I mean, we're all learning about PTSD. We're all learning about all of the things that actually it has done. We think about the brain, but maybe it's also because it's such a traumatic event, and all those chemicals had to be flushed out through the liver and the kidneys. So, there could be other areas of the body that we haven't even sort of got an awareness on yet, just because it's just such a traumatic event. And regardless, in all those other situations, if our liver is damaged, if some other organ is damaged, we know that glutathione will help rebuild damaged liver tissue. We know that collagen will help build other damaged tissue. It's a basis for repairing the body. So there's lots of good reasons for taking glutathione, collagen protein, along with a really good essential oil, flax oil, omega oil, some kind of omega oil. There's really good reasons behind taking those products and combining them together. Now, what I suggest to people is you take your glutathione in the morning. You can take your collagen throughout the day. I always suggest to people that if they're going to take a big dose of oils, that they do that at night. And if you are using a capsule, if that's your preferred, if that's the only way you can get oils down and you're using a really good omega oil in a capsule, you can freeze them and take them that way so that they don't open up in your stomach and trigger, your gallbladder or whatever. They go into the intestinal tract, and then the bowel is released from the liver, not from your gallbladder, so there's no stomach upset. So that's another thing people can do. So, I guess my point to this call today, Diana, is that there's hope. We're seeing results. We're seeing a glimmer of hope for these people. We're seeing people that are now able to reduce the amount of medications that they're taking. We're seeing that people are able to be more socially active. So we're seeing a lot of changes. And, PTSD, it's one of those conditions that affects everybody around that person. And because they have this, they have uncontrolled reaction time. And it's not, their mind isn't, it's gone to this point where it's always on guard, you might say. It's always on the edge. And so, something very small can trigger a reaction, an unexpected reaction. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the hope that the edge is taken off. I have, 3 or 4 people that I continue to work with on a regular basis. In Canada here too, they've started the called CVET program, and the CVET program is a program whereby military people who are suffering from PTSD can get a dog, and they're finding that that's a very useful tool as well. It seems to be also contributing to the calming, the effectiveness of allowing people, allowing their brain to cool down again, to calm down again. So these are just some of the things that I've learned about, I'm noticing, I'm continuing to work with. I'm very excited about Vara because Vara delivers glutathione right to the brain. My suggestion is people would take at least 2 packages of Vara, one in the morning, one mid-afternoon. I prefer Probeta because it has the tryptophan in it. Tryptophan itself is calming to the brain. Nufina does not have tryptophan, so I prefer the Probeta. Taking your Probeta throughout the day, but taking so maybe 1 or 2 during the day, and then having 2 or 3 at night before you go to bed, and then once again taking some omega oils along with that. We used to use high-dose vitamin D with selenium, and in Vara we have selenium, we have B vitamins. I think if you're taking 2 a day of those, that you're getting enough of the B vitamins, you're getting enough selenium in that. And so, I'm hoping that there's some people on this call tonight that they find this useful, and that they can come back to us in a few weeks and say, you know what, here's what's happened. We started on the Vara a couple of days. We started on the Pro Beta. We did get an Omega oil, and here's what we're seeing. Because really what everyone with PTSD is looking for, they're looking for that hope. They're looking for just the idea that someday they're going to be able to function again without that memory, without that, their mind continually in that spot, go to sleep without a nightmare, and slow the reaction time down. Those are all things that these people want. So, Diana, I know we're just about at our 30 minutes here, and I did want to, if you had a question or two, a specific or something that you feel I didn't cover, maybe ask that, and then we can just wrap the call up.
Okay. Actually, I don't have any questions. You answered every question that I had. As I thought the question, you answered it. So that was awesome. I want to thank you very much, Alan, for spending some time with us tonight. You are such a great lecturer. I learned so much from you. For everybody that's on the call, if you are a guest, please get back with the person who invited you. Ask your questions. They will answer them for you. And for every VSI partner, we will have this call is recorded, and it will be in all of the groups as soon as I can get it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for inviting your friends, and good night.